Nicole Ward has been, I call her a force of nature. She has been a dear friend for well over a decade and somebody that I admire more than, I could even imagine or say. And Nicole is one of the most organized, self-disciplined, um, intelligent individuals I know. She is one that shares her knowledge with every single person and never holds back. She will help anybody. She has just such an amazing gift that and as she learns even more, she's really blowing me away. So this is really about biohacking. She has learned how to really take advantage of tools and things and to make our lives better. She and I used to, I remember like sit on a chair and talk about different supplements and all of that. And she has gone way beyond anything I could have ever imagined. And she has even developed, almost a systematic way that people can go through this. And I'm super excited. She's a sales leader and she'll give more about her background, but the things that she's done in her career just it never stops. And the fact that she can pay such good attention to her health and share her knowledge with all of us, I'm really grateful. So Nicole, I'm turning it over to you. Oops, you're muted.
Myself. All right.
There you go.
Well, thank you so much, Christy. That is like literally cheers me up, and I'm so grateful to be here. I mean, these coffee series, it's just legend, right? Like, I mean, they're famous, right? So, the fact that you're honoring me with an opportunity to share what I'm really passionate about and what I care deeply about and love so much, is just a gift in and of itself. As Christy shared, I've spent my life in public accounting and professional services and sales leadership roles. As chief sales officer, currently I'm the senior vice president of sales for Aon, which is a really large risk commercial advisory firm. But my journey along the way of my corporate, climb, if you will, really, really, at its heart, changed so much for the better when I really tuned into my health, wellness, and really understanding how to optimize for all the things that go into being a holistically healthy person. And so that's a little bit of the spirit of what I'm hoping to share today. I do have a slide deck here. If I wanted to share, how would let's see here. Want to make sure am I okay to share my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry, let me just do that quick little, here we go. All right.
It was cool out there.
Pull this up here and let's do that. And can everyone see my screen? Audio? Yes?
Not yet.
I can't
Not
see you all
yet.
anymore.
Not
Oh,
yet.
Not
you
yet.
can't. Oh, okay. No? Okay, I hit share. Let me go back here. I do know how to share my screen. Okay, let's see. Share. There we go.
Coming.
All right. Very good. Okay. All right. Great. So what I'd like to talk about today, as Christy mentioned, is biohacking, right? And when we think, oops, excuse me, I go back there. I'm gonna get rid of this little. How do we get rid of that? There we go. What I'm here to talk about is biohacking for executives, right? How can we optimize our health and our wellness to improve our results? And what is this sort of executive athlete mindset, right? I believe that when we think about all of the quotas that we have to hit as executives, the KPIs, the metrics, et cetera, we focus so much on other metrics that we forget to optimize for our own operating systems. And so performance it's not just about hitting numbers. It's about learning how to manage our systems as the greatest competitive advantage that we have. And I think elite performers, when we think of athletes, they manage themselves to such a degree. They look at all the things, right? Their sleep, their nutrition, how they recover from heavy workouts, and they think about cognition and mindset. I think we as executives have to do the same thing. And I think biohacking, for those of you that aren't familiar with it, I'll explain it in just a second here, but biohacking isn't really fringy anymore. It's actually, I believe, one of the pillars or cornerstones of leadership in the future. And so what is it, right? What is biohacking? Biohacking is about using technology to tighten our feedback loops, right? And what I mean by that, it's using things like wearable devices, using things like data, tracking our performance, tracking our things like heart rate variability, tracking our sleep, tracking whether it's throughout the course of the day, our stress levels, but it's all meant to track and monitor what we're doing as an example of how we're recuperating, right, from all the stressors that come at us through the day, and to then ultimately take that data and information on ourselves to get a better result, right? And so I think as leaders, we look at it and we think about resilience, right? We think about how we hire for humans, to come on our teams, and we think about, well, we want someone who's resilient, we want somebody who can flex, can learn, can evolve, can grow. Well, by taking some of these tools and really looking at how we track ourselves, we're able to set better examples of how to do that. So again, whether it's wearable device, nutrition, supplements, etc., all that biohacking is about is really to give us, as the high performance we are, a better and stronger competitive edge to operate at our best. So why now? Why is this kind of a thing now, right? Because as we all know, we can read, whether we're on Instagram or whether we're on Facebook or whatever, resources you go to out there, everyone's burned out, right? We're all distracted by our phones, by our devices, and we're more depleted than ever. And as I said before, we optimize for everything except ourselves. And I think that's so important because, as we know, when we live with, whether it's strategic planning, road mapping, all the conversations and meetings we're in, we're all about what gets measured, gets improved. And our energy as human beings is our biggest ROI. It means that we're better partners, we're better colleagues, we're better parents, we're better leaders when we optimize for our own health and wellness. So when we think about our nervous systems, maybe some of you have heard out there, heart rate variability. That's a very big thing when we think about our parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems and how our HRV, our heart rate variability, can really tell us how we're recuperating from stress, right? And it's also correlates with inflammatory markers, right? When we have inflammation in the body, we know that leads to disease, right? All of those things lead to poor decision making if we're not on top of them, if we're not trying to do our best to stay healthy, because it keeps us in fight or flight. And when we're leading from a reactive place as opposed to a place where we're balanced, we're grounded, and we're healthy, we're not going to be as strategic as we possibly could be. When we've gone out the night before and we've stayed up late, we've drank too much, we've over networked, we've eaten too close to our bedtime, but yet we've got the big meeting this morning, we're not cognitively going to be at our best. And when we optimize for those things, we get 20, 25% better performance. I know because I've hacked my way to doing it over many, many years. So optimizing our nervous system, it gives us range, right? It gives us mental clarity. It gives us more emotional control, less reactivity, and it means we're going to be able to go the distance. So what are some biohacks? What are some examples, right, when I'm talking about this to make it a little bit more real? And the first one, because I know we're all hearing a lot about sleep these days, sleep is probably the number one most important thing any of us can do for our wellness and our longevity. I know that's not a huge surprise, but deep sleep and good REM mean that we are consolidating our memories. We're going to be better decision makers. It's going to allow for overall better hormone regulation. And I think things like circadian rhythm, for those of you that aren't familiar, there's a natural rhythm to when the sun comes up and the sun sets. If you're someone, you've got all the lights on in your house at 9 o'clock at night, that's something you want to look at, right? If you're staring at your phone, on a blue screen right up until the time you turn out your light to go to sleep, there's implications to that aren't healthy, right? And there's all sorts of wearable devices that I know you've probably heard of, tools that you can use that, again, tighten that feedback loop, whether it's an Aura ring, a Whoop band, an iWatch or Apple Watch, where you can see your sleep cycles. Because I always say this phrase, but once you know, you can't not know. And that's part of biohacking. It's about feedback. And so again, once you know, you're aware of it, and it's hard to discount it, right? So there's an accountability inherent in some of these devices, right? And I know that, you're all probably familiar, but there's a lot of supplements that are over the counter, very healthy and organic, that you can take that will help facilitate sleep so that you get yourself in a place of optimum sleep partnership, if you will. And, movement is huge. I know we all hear this too, 10,000 steps a day, but it's far less about the 10,000 steps a day. And what it is about moving our bodies, right? I love to call them exercise snacks. Or micro mobility breaks, where in between a call, you stop and you do 50, you stand by your desk and you do 50 squats, or maybe you drop and do 20 push-ups, and doing those little exercise snacks throughout the day. That's something we can all do, even if it's just getting up to walk around the block, but making sure that those things are incorporated. So yes, 10,000 steps, great goal, very important. But there's other ways of not feeling like you have to boil the ocean, but really weaving those things into your best practices, right? And some of the other ones that I would share that I think are really important, there's a lot of nootropics out there. And again, as someone who has gone from extremely overweight, very unhealthy, stressed, not sleeping well, 50 pounds of weight gain. One of the most important things to me was cognitive function. I think about how many meetings I was at where I needed to be strategic and I needed to think. My teammates needed me. My team that reported to me needed me to be here. And I just wasn't, because I wasn't healthy. And so when I think about the nootropics that I've used along the way, that I've learned to incorporate when I do have a big meeting or a presentation, when it's the basics like hydration, of course, and making sure that we're staying hydrated and well rested. But it's also, there's some real cool things you can take, whether it's different mushrooms, in your coffee. Creatine in your coffee is wonderful. Making sure that you're not snacking in between meals, so you keep your hormones nice and even. That gives you a nice level set. So there's ways you can fuel your brain, not just your body. And then I think another area, as I mentioned before, that heart rate variability. It's also knowing when to give ourselves the grace to recover. It is great to push, and we do want to push ourselves, but also knowing when am I going into something big that I need to relax and give myself some recovery to prepare for, right? And again, using tools like Sensate, which is a wonderful sensor, which can help calm your parasympathetic nervous system. That's a great tool to use. Again, all of the sort of wearable devices will give you insight and feedback as to how you're tracking, so you can time those important meetings. So when you need to give yourself time to recover, so that you're bringing your A game and your optimum into that big meeting, that big presentation, versus when you need to push it and when you can and you have the capacity to push it. And I think it's also just overall, we all hear a lot about breathing and breath work, and putting our devices down. There's so much to that. Even if you have to set yourself calendar reminders throughout the day to like take the little exercise snack that I mentioned, or to stop and do 30 deep breaths, setting reminders on your phone, or setting alarms, all of those things just to weave them into your day, I think are really good options. And so I'm gonna absolutely throw myself under the bus here. But I literally 20 years ago I gained 50 pounds. I did not sleep well. My lab work was a nightmare. And I'm 55, so this tells you how long ago. I was in my mid 30s. I did a deep dive. When I got my lab work back, I thought, what, my labs look like I'm 50. What's going on? And so I did a deep dive into health. I started listening to podcasts. I've gotten board certifications. I got devices. I read every book I can get my hands on, because it was so important to me to learn about what am I doing? How can I do it better? So I really learned to lean in. To what was hard, what was challenging. And I really retrained the reward centers in my brain, to be honest with you. I learned to love what was hard, lifting weights, doing the hard thing, making the harder choices, and stepping away from the easy button, right? And the truth of it is, I transformed. And I literally, I dropped the 50 pounds of weight gain. My performance excelled. I was present at meetings, all by dialing in my sleep, my diet, and making simple changes over time. I was a better leader for sure. I was a better partner, and I was able to really see my career accelerate because I was showing up in the way that I was designed to, as opposed to coming at things like this. I was meeting them where they were. And that's when I coined the phrase sales is a sport. And again, I know not all of you are sales executives like myself, but sales is a sport. And I learned to train for it like an athlete. These are some before and after photos. And that these are real. This was just me, gosh, 15, 20 years ago. And then I have some, photos of just a couple of months ago. But you get a sense of the journey. And it was not overnight. It took me, I want to say it was about 8.5, 9 months to drop those 50 pounds, to do it healthily, and to change my diet along the way, and all the things. So I believe the future of elite performance for executives is regenerative. I think that burnout and busy, they're not badges of honor like they used to be. It used to be like, oh, I'm so busy. Oh, I'm burned out. I'm working so hard. What is that proving to anyone, right? Smarter, not harder. I know we've certainly all heard that. And what if instead, again, we, instead of thinking about how hard, how fast, what if we did it in a holistic way? What if we think about all the things that we need to accomplish, all of the measures of success and the metrics that we're trying to achieve in a more holistic way with ourselves in relation to those things, right? And what if our calendar and revenue weren't the only metrics, but instead, our health weaved into that for ourselves and for our team? Because I don't think busy scales, right? I think clarity and health is what scales. And I can tell you, so many of my team that have reported to me over the years, I've given them, holiday gifts and things. I've given them mushroom powders and different nootropics, and they used to make fun of me, but so many of them have now come to kind of convert to a healthier mindset. And I think there's something to be said for that as leaders, when we're able to lead our teams. When I bought my team Aura rings, or when I got them, encouraged them with their wearable devices to have some sort of a healthy competition, it was really fun. And it can elevate things for sure. So some of the takeaways is, I don't want to give the impression in this, quick, fast and dirty, presentation here in 15, 20 minutes. I don't want to leave you with the sense that you have to boil the ocean. That's not the goal, right? It's about finding things that work for you, where you feel there are gaps in your game, right? When you see yourself and you think, okay, what's one or two things that I can deploy that will get me a result? and it's about bite-sized approach, right? And that we don't, again, overwhelm ourselves with all the options, but think, okay, I can do these two things, in the course of the next month that could be helpful, right? So whether that's tracking your HRV, getting a wearable, maybe it's putting a food app on your phone and tracking your food intake for a week, just to look at, gosh, am I hitting all my nutrient categories? Am I getting all my micronutrients that I need? Maybe there's one upgrade that you could do, whether it's walking, taking your meetings, walking, etc. But I do believe that being optimized gets us to be better, not just for ourselves, but for everybody in our personal ecosystems. So that was really, like I said, very quick and dirty, but I'm happy to open it up to questions if anybody has them.
So, oops, I have questions. And can you hear me? Okay, good. I'll get it started. So, and Bill asked, can you tell us more about the vitamins and supplements that you recommend? And first, can you help define nootropics?
Yes. So thank you for the question. So I'll define and then go into the question.
Yeah.
Nootropics are supplements that are over the counter, legal. You don't have to go to a pharmacy for them, but that enhance cognition. And there are many, 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 many. Aniracetam, paracetam, again, mushrooms. There's all sorts of, there's tons of combinations of amino acids that you can get. I have a one sheet that has some examples of nootropics that I can share for folks. The one that I would say that is they're not inexpensive, I will share. But the one that is really good that everyone loves, it's super clean from a supply chain perspective, is called Qualia Mind. It is not inexpensive, but if you want a rocket ship and you need to be prepared for something, or you really need to focus and you need to think, Qualia Mind is your friend. There's other ones that I could refer that are also really, really good, but they're just things that enhance cognition. If you have a doctor that you work with on a regular basis, modafinil is one that's prescribed that's also really, really good for cognition enhancement. So there are ones that you can get prescribed, but there's ones that are over the counter that I find are great. So yes,
And
does that
and
help
we
with
can
nootropics? Mhm.
Yeah, and we can send out your one sheeter, right? And
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
that would be really, really beneficial. And
Totally.
so back to Bill's question about different supplements, like where do you start? I mean, is it the multivitamin? I mean, what are uh, kind of the basics?
Great question. So supplement is titled supplement for a reason, right? We want to get the basics in place. We all need a magnesium because we're all low, and we all need a multivitamin most of the time. When you really dial in your health, you want to be careful with multiple vitamins, right? Because multis are like shotguns. But I think for the average person, taking a multiple vitamin is a good baseline. And again, everyone needs magnesium, guaranteed. So those are basics, right? I think supplements, if you've got a good diet and a good, a reasonable exercise routine, and you've got, a sense of kind of how you're tracking, is fairly healthy, then you can look for supplements. The way to know where you are is to put an app on your phone, like a Lose It or a MyFitnessPal. Put a food app on your phone for a week. It'll be free. And track what you eat only for a week. You don't have to do it for a long time because some people don't like to do that. I've done it for years. It's a wonderful way of holding yourself accountable. And if you really want to lose weight, it's a great way to do it. But if you just track your food intake for 1 week with one of the apps that has micronutrients, it is a wonderful window for you to know what are you eating on an average week and what are you missing. It will show you, my God, I'm not getting enough B12 or B6, or wow, I'm really low in magnesium, or oh, I'm not getting this or that. So tracking your health or your food for 1 week, again, on maybe it's one, maybe it's 2 weeks, whatever will give you an average sample size for yourself, that will tell you what you're missing so that you know that you're getting that baseline. Maybe it's not enough vitamin C, etc. So you have that covered. Then with supplementation, supplements, I would say the question is, what are you solving for? If you feel like, gosh, you know what? My sleep is off. Or gosh, you know what? When it comes to exercise, I don't have the energy. Well, if it's exercise and you want a little bit more energy, there's things like rhodiola, which is amazing, and Siberian ginseng. Wonderful to take before creatine. Wonderful things to take before exercise. 30 minutes gives you a nice lift, right? If you're like, gosh, I really need to solve for sleep. Well, there's things like L-theanine. There's things, many wonderful things, glycine, GABA, magnesium, the right kind of magnesium. So it depends on what you're solving for. Again, don't boil the ocean. You want to use them smartly and sparingly, and of course, with your hopefully functional your functional MD to help you. Because I'm not an MD, I have several board certifications, but I'm not a medical doctor. So please listen to your doctor first.
So, we talked about nootropics and different supplements. HRV, okay, that's a mystery to so many. And I get it on my Aura ring, but and I have to say I think my HRV is not good. But can you talk about that? And because that seems to be a key number that is really talked about a lot, but I don't think people really understand it. And it's like the cortisol levels affected, and when we're well, so right now many people are in a kind of a stressful state, whether job searching or trying to get through life. I mean, and you said it's like burnout is at a major high right now. And we know that we want to live differently, but we don't necessarily know like what all the numbers may mean, and how do we know when we're getting better?
Totally. It's a great question. Heart rate variability measures our resilience, our ability to recover to stressors. I followed the number one PhD in the world. His name is Marco Altini. He's brilliant, and he is all things HRV. There are many other scientists that do a lot of great science around HRV, but he's the best. And when by following him, what I've learned is that our HRV should only be compared against our own HRV. You never want to compare against anyone else's. And heart rate variability measures the space between your regular heartbeats. And what it's, again, as an indicator, it tells you your ability to recover from stress. So typically, the flatter your HRV, the worse you're recovering, the harder. So when any of us get sick, your HRV will turn into almost a flat line. If you've had a very late night, when you've eaten really late, or you've had too much to drink the night before, your HRV will show it, right? Your body's just not going to be able to recover to the degree, because it's trying to solve for all that you did to it the night before, right? So HRV, again, when compared against yourself, when you had an ideal recovery, is when you get a lot of the jagged lines. You want your HRV to look like the Tetons, right? You want it to be like this, very jagged and fairly mixed. And so, again, only comparing to your own. Wearable devices will track you over time. So the wearable devices with all the algorithms and AI will learn to tell you how you're doing against yourself when it comes to your own heart rate variability. But the ways to help your HRV throughout the day are, again, taking those little exercise snack breaks, stopping, setting your alarm a couple times a day to just sit and just breathe for 30 seconds. Those are great things. Sitting in the sunshine, just letting yourself just be and connect, feeling your feet just on the floor beneath you for 30 seconds. That's a wonderful grounding, wonderful way to help your HRV. So heart rate variability, yeah, look at it. It's actually your friend. It's actually a way that you can measure against yourself your own opportunity to recover and your own resilience.
And Julia asks, so she wears a heart rate monitor. Good for you, Julia. And is it good that her heart rate reduces very quickly after a high spike?
Terrific. Yeah, that means that's great recovery. When you can, the slower your heart rate goes up is a great sign of health and fitness level. And the faster it comes down, it means your body's really but that's heart rate, not heart rate variability. But heart rate, you want your heart rate to come down. It means your body can handle it. It means you can recover. Yes,
Can
that's very good.
you, and Bill asks, can you discuss any recent studies about cortisol? He heard that the linkage to stress has been disproven. I don't know about that.
I think where cortisol is concerned, I mean, cortisol, I've not heard that. Cortisol and the adrenals are tied very closely together. And so, when I think about cortisol, typically you want your cortisol goes up in the morning and then it goes down throughout the course of the day, then allowing melatonin to build up throughout the day, right? This is why sun and circadian rhythm is so important, right? Your melatonin builds up so that it helps you sleep throughout the night as your cortisol goes down. So they do this with each other. Cortisol, it is going to be, you're going to have a cortisol response when you drink coffee, which I'm doing right now, right? When you have a fight or flight situation, you're going to get a spike in your cortisol. And it's very closely tied to your hormones, right? And so I think, whether it's, connected to stress, that's not something I've heard that's been disproven, because I know that, for example, when you do a HIIT workout, a high intensity interval training workout, or you do, a really heavy strength training session, your cortisol spikes. That's because your body, there's a stressor, right? That's inflammation. Working out to some degree is inflammation, but it's the best kind of inflammation. So, I haven't read that. I would love to see whatever, PubMed you're reading or whatever article that you've read. There's a lot of research that comes out that unfortunately people want a headline. And so they take that research and they make a thing of it, or they're trying to get the click. And so they'll pivot the real research away from the actual learnings or understandings of it to try to get you to click on the headline. So I haven't heard that. And there very well could be truth in that, but that doesn't jive with anything that I'm hearing from all the MDs and PhDs that I follow.
So, what about getting an EKG? And that's actually a good question because, it's like, what's going on internally? And then there's questions about blood panel.
So EKG is not something fortunately I've never had one. I've never had to go through that. But I do, I mean, I check my blood pressure regularly. I've worn a CGM, a continuous blood glucose monitor. Those are wonderful. But that's like a whole different rabbit hole. So I can't speak to EKG, but the second question I can, forgive me, Christy, could you repeat it? I want to make sure I speak to it correctly.
So it's really getting your blood tested. So how do we know like a good starting point?
Right.
Because
I gotcha. Yeah.
yeah, and because insurance doesn't necessarily cover it,
I
but
know.
there are
It's
low
just
cost ways to get it, right?
Oh, my friends, 10 to thousands and thousands of dollars later. That is part of why I do this, because I just care about it so deeply, because there's so much money that you spend out of pocket when you start getting away from insurance and Western medicine and you start going to functional doctors, etc. The solve for blood tests, to be honest, I mean, the great news is for everyone is that honestly, we know more about our own blood work and our health than any MD could at this point. And it used to be the opposite, right? That the doctor had all of our blood work and all of our information and we couldn't get to any of it. It is a wonderful time, an empowering time to be into your own health and wellness. And so the starter kit for anyone listening who wants to demystify this. There is an extraordinary doctor, Dr. Mark Hyman. He is legend, amazing. He started something that is really cracking the code on creating accessibility, simple and easy for all of us to to look into our own health. And so what it's called is Function Labs. And you can go to Function Health and go to their website, and literally you can pick, I think it's $4.99 a year, and you get 2 full blood labs. And there's auxiliary labs that you can also choose to add on if you're curious. But all of it comes right to your door. Like it's as easy as it can be. You sign up for it and you get wonderful optics into what's going on. And frankly, with the help of ChatGPT, there is no blood work, there's no hair mineral analysis, there's no tests that I have done on myself, and I do a lot because I'm a biohacker. There's nothing that I've done on myself that I've not pumped into ChatGPT, who I call Sage, because she's very wise. And Sage tells me, and then I take all of what Sage says around my medical information and I take it to my functional MD, who is scratching her head like, oh my gosh, this is really good. Like 95% of this is pretty accurate. And frankly, folks, that's the future of healthcare. I mean, AI is going to replace a lot of the rote, sort of understanding across as we aggregate our DNA, our wearable device information, diet, patterns. We're gonna find, and there's already apps that do this, ways to aggregate across all of our data, and then get it to our functional medicine practitioners who can then help us understand it in a far more holistic way. Right now, you've got to kind of put it all together. I just use ChatGPT to help me with that. Sorry if I went down too many,
No,
alleys there, but.
and I'm getting some private messages that people are asking. It's really fascinating. Okay, so let me try to get to everyone. So, okay, somebody asked, researching supplements is exhausting. How do you find clean companies? And
Oh, I love this
oh my
question.
gosh, yes,
I love
because
this
it's like
question.
I talked to somebody who used to work at a supplement company, and she was telling me some of the omega-3 stories, and it was like, oh my gosh, we know, or we hear that omega-3s are important supplements for us to take. But
It's
look at what can go wrong.
Oh, clean supply chain is huge. And I'll tell you this, as someone who I had lead poisoning 3 years ago from cacao. Unfortunately, chocolate is has one of the highest concentrations of lead and cadmium of anything you can put in your mouth. And it doesn't matter if it's organic, etc. Chocolate's just dirty. And so I had a lead poisoning. This was maybe 4 years ago now. And I went through a massive detox protocol. And then I detoxed from mold and parasites and all the things, right? Which we all have to some degree. But through the course of that, I really came to understand supply chain cleanliness and how important it is when we buy supplements. First of all, Amazon Prime, no, Amazon Pharmacy only. And secondly, I have vetted, frankly, the cleanest people in the world. And again, this is where I've done all this work and this to try to make it easier for people, right? So I can send you as a part of my one pager, Christy, a list of supplements that I know are clean, that do third-party testing, supply chain testing, that bird dog it all the way down the line, because I don't want toxins in my supplements. I don't want lead, arsenic, cadmium, all the crap, the mercury, etc. It's super important that we keep ourselves away from those. So there are some really good companies out there. Again, like you say, it's exhausting. Whoever asked that question, oh my God, I feel you. It's exhausting. Thankfully, I've done a lot of that work for you. I do share, but there's some really good companies.
Yeah, great. And somebody asked us basically what on a wearable, what's the least expensive great measurement tool that we could get?
Oh, it's a very good question. And you know what? I don't know. That's a great question. Probably,
I'm thinking a Fitbit.
probably, maybe, I don't know Fitbit. So let me just say, I don't know all that Fitbit tracks for, if it's the most exhaustive. So I think the first question would be, what are you solving for? If you're like, look, I work out all the time like a fiend, I don't need something to tell me my step count, but I do want sleep. then that's an Aura ring. And they're all fairly about the same. They're all like between $300 and $500. You know what I feel like the Whoop is, which I'm wearing, the Aura ring is, which I'm wearing. But maybe a Fitbit could do it. If you're only interested, if you're like, no, I sleep like a demon, no problem, but I need to track my movement, maybe a Fitbit would suffice because it's going to tell you your movement
Yeah.
and your steps, right? So I back into it and what are you solving for? And then how, and then I'd go at it that way. And again, that's a great chat GPT question, which is like when you compare the top 10 devices, wearable technology, biohacking devices out there, what are the least expensive if I'm solving for X? That would be my recommendation.
Okay, so somebody asked, we're getting so many questions right now. And I'm gonna start with diet. So breakfast, lunch, dinner. What are your best recommendations for breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
Protein, 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 and protein.
Okay.
I'm seriously, folks, none of us get enough. At the minimum, every one of us should be getting 100 grams of protein a day, whether you're
That's
vegan,
hard,
vegetarian.
huh?
It's,
That
it's,
is
it's, it's
hard.
not, it's not. You have to make things like egg and whey protein powder your friend, right? Or if you're, again, if you're a vegetarian, there's a ton of really clean protein powders that are vegan or vegetarian that will help you hit your protein macros, but none of us are getting enough protein. So that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to tell you think about protein first and you build around it. None of us are getting enough, especially all the science that's come out. I mean, I follow everybody from Rhonda Patrick to Peter Attia. I mean, I marinate in these people and every single one of them, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, all of them, it is all about protein is 100% connected to longevity and to maintaining muscle mass, which we have to as we get older, because again, longevity is tied to muscle mass. And so it's so important. So that's my first answer. And I've got lots of ideas for protein for anyone who's interested. And you can also follow my, my Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff if you're interested.
Yeah.
But I think for breakfast, if I could show you my refrigerator, you would see, as I mentioned, avocados, eggs. There's really good, clean bread. When I say clean, I mean really healthy bread that's made with alternatives to gluten. That's clean. That's made with psyllium husk or lupini flour. So there's some really good options, some really good brands you could pick up at Sprouts or Whole Foods, depending on where you live. There's also, I think for lunches, I typically do a shake, right? I lean on that whey protein. For those of you that think you have a hard time hitting your macros, you want to be taking essential amino acids, not branch chain amino acids, but essential amino acids. What those do is ensure that you're getting the entire amino acid profile that you need every day to hold on to muscle and help you build muscle if you're trying to. And essential amino acids, they taste disgusting. It's awful. Suck it up, rub some dirt on it, do it anyway. um, put on our grown-up pants. We got to do it. But you take a scoop of essential amino acids with your whey protein or your casein protein powder or your vegan protein powder. And it's wonderful. It is a very easy way of helping you get to your protein macros. And for dinner, I mean, again, it's always a great, whether it's a salad, a bunch of veggies, and always built around the protein. Again, I am low carb as a rule, but once every couple of weeks, you do the thing, right? It's not about being so rigid. It's about balance. So, I can also in the one pager add some stuff about meal suggestions. Again, if you follow my LinkedIn newsletter, I do all sorts of stuff on recipes and I think it comes out this week. I did one on vacationing and when you travel, how can you enjoy yourself, but also kind of biohack and keep yourself clean. So lots of ideas there on my
You
newsletter.
know, it's yeah, and so we're gonna you're gonna give us the newsletter link, your
Give
Instagram
all the
link, and
things.
all
Yes.
of that. And okay, so about what a couple of months ago, I spent the weekend with Nicole and at her house, and I will tell you, number one, I felt like a queen, and I ate so well. She made all this great food for me. we had dinner and she asked, do you want to go out? Do you want to, get takeout, or do you want, to eat at home? And I said, let's eat at home. Just, that way we're just together.
Loved.
She made this fish dinner with veggies, and oh my gosh, it tasted unbelievable. And I had a hard time believing how healthy it was. The fish was seasoned and cooked to perfection, and the vegetables, it was so flavorful, and it had all of these great greens and vegetables in it. And then dessert. It's like Nicole has learned how to eat so you don't ever feel like you're missing out on anything. And she has
I
some
have
dessert
to,
hacks that are
I do.
crazy.
So I'll add to that because I think this is important for anyone who's interested to hear this. My whole goal was how can I make like the naughty food that I love to go out and eat, whether that's wings or pizza or dessert, how can I take those naughty foods and make them cleanly? And you'll find I think my newsletter for that comes out next week, which is all of these sort of, naughty recipe hacks where, and to Christy's point, like I love making, I make pasta all the time, but I use shirataki noodles, right? Or palmini, which is made with hearts of palm, right? That's wonderful pasta dishes, but there's no carbs, right? And it's all really good for the gut and it's full of fiber and healthy for us. So I love coming up with a clean version of what used to be naughty. And desserts are my jam because this girl has a sweet tooth, like
Oh my
literally,
gosh.
and I can
I
make
can attest to that big
cakes and
time.
ice cream, then it's all clean. It's all low cal, low carb, low fat, but really clean. Yeah, I love
But
it. I love
Nicole
doing
can
that.
splurge. She can splurge. Okay, every year on
Oh
her
yeah.
birthday, and I've gone out to dinner with her, and she will order one of every dessert and have
Mm,
a few bite. I mean, not just one bite, but she'll do a fair job on all of those desserts. I saw
totally.
her with 6 or 7 desserts one time, and it was like,
Yes.
seriously? So what I love about this is that it's all about balance. Now, so, for you, it's like you're very disciplined with how you do things, but you color outside the lines, and you can come right back in, and you don't have this huge sense of guilt. And so it's like you've been able to balance things so well. So you're not a 100% purist, which I really appreciate.
No, I mean, we all have a mountain that we're headed to, right? And I feel the steady drip, it's the steady drip that counts, right? It's the daily, I make choices on the daily that get me closer to my mountaintop. Every once in a while, we take a detour, but then, you remind yourself where the mountain is and what you're aiming for, what you're shooting for. And again, it's not velocity, it's trajectory, right? It's that we're going in the right direction. It's not how fast we get there, but it's that steady drip that counts. And yes, we gotta have a little fun. And I do have fun every once in a while. My friends will make fun of me when I do order dessert for my entree. They'll be like, "What?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is happening."
I know, and I'll never forget you spent 3 weeks in Europe recently, and the first picture I saw of you was at a French bakery, and it was like, of
Absolutely.
course, that's where she's going to
Totally.
be. Anyway, okay, and there's so many people who are in job search, and the first thing that happens is they get an interview, and they're they want to be on top of their game, right? And you and I both know, I mean, it's like when I want to be at my peak mental state. It's like, what do you do the day before? So
Mm,
that, it's like, okay, because sleep is going to be hard because I'm going to be all in my head for an interview.
yep,
And but supplementation,
totally.
et cetera,
Yeah.
help us with that.
So, because Christy is literally one of the most important people in the world to me, and I wanted to show up, hopefully today, in honor and respect for her, and the message. Yesterday, I already lived into this, right? So, yes, last night, I made sure that I had dinner done and finished by 5:30. And then and so that was done, right? All the lights in my house dimmed naturally with the setting of the sun. I got off my last device. Let's see, I was in bed asleep by 9:30. I was off devices by 8:30. And no pets in my bed sleeping with me, although I love that normally. But I was like, nope, got to make sure I dial it in. I added I make mocktails for myself, which are really fun. I make my own tea and then I ice it. And with that tea, I'll take like ashwagandha, I'll take turmeric and ginger. So I make these really cool teas. And then I'll add a little bit of electrolytes to it and I'll sip on that in like a wine glass, in the evenings to make myself feel like I'm doing something. So with my mocktail last night, I put in glycine, L-theanine. I also did magnesium and then jujube, which is wonderful. There's also valerian root, which is really good, but I don't want to go too heavy, right? So I had those in my mocktail last night. I was off to,
So were these
yeah.
powders?
Oh yeah, they're all supplements that you can get. If you also, let me do a sidebar really quick because this is important. And all of you, going back to supply chain for a second, there's a company called Supco, Suppco. It'll be on the one pager. This company is solving for clean supply chain. And I should have mentioned this earlier. They're an app you put on your phone. You put in your stack, whatever your supplements are that you're taking, and it will grade them on how clean they are, meaning how clean the sources are and whether they're legit and what you're overdoing. So you don't duplicate supplements. So you're not overtaking zinc or selenium, for example, which can be bad, right? So Supco, sorry, I wanted to share that. But the supplements you get, I get them online. I'll share in my one pager some of the suggestions. So I took that before I went to bed. I slept like a dream. I was like 90 on both of my sleep scores on my Whoop and my Aura. I like to compare against each other, right? The two devices. And then, I woke up at 5:30 this morning, which is normal for me. I did my 30 minutes of yoga and just sort of like, not really meditation because my cortisol is really high in the morning, but I do breath work and just sort of gratitude practice. And then I went on a nice walk with my dogs for like 30 minutes, even in the rain, because just getting my body moving is always really important. I do that every morning with my pups. And then I came back and I ate a light, but really a protein focused breakfast. I didn't want to come in heavy. I did stack this morning. So I took some nootropics this morning on an empty stomach. And what I took was, there's a really good company called LVL Health, Level Health, and they make a nootropic that is a combination of all the things. You probably only need this. Woo, it'll light you up. It's great. So I took that. I also took Timeline Nutrition's Urolithin A, which is really good from a mitochondrial perspective. I took Carbon 60. I know this is kind of weedy for you. I'm sorry, but you asked. So I took some nootropics, which were really, but I started those nootropics at like 5:30 in the morning. So when you take supplements, don't take them all at once. You're asking your liver to process everything that goes in your mouth has to process through your liver in 1 hour. Our poor livers, they take so much. We got to be kinder to our livers. So you want to take like one supplement, take it one every 13 to 15 minutes, and slowly take them. So you start when you first wake up on an empty stomach, especially nootropics. Most nootropics you're going to want to take on an empty stomach. At least that's what they'll tell you. And then in my coffee, I had creatine, I had mushroom powder, and that gives a little lift too. So I don't know if that was helpful, but
yeah, it really is because so much of the time it's like we want to be on, like firing on all cylinders. And so this is great. Okay, I can't wait for people to have the one sheeter. And can we share your presentation as well? And
absolutely. Go
okay,
forth and share.
and then we'll send out all your links for your newsletter, your
Wow.
Instagram, your all of these things, because you are again, just such a generous wealth of knowledge.
Just want to save
And
folks time. There's no monetization here, by the way. Like there's
I
nothing, there's no
know
sale here. This is just,
it.
I just want to share all the hacks and learnings, if I can. So
Well, you have done so much to biohack your health, and you've been, really instrumental in my own journey and a great sounding board for things. And this last one about, taking our supplements over a course of time is a new one for me because, some people see me pop a bunch of pills, and now I'm going to take it a little bit
a little
more
bit slower.
slowly.
Even just
Yeah,
10 minutes between them is good, even 10 minutes. So I
yeah.
set like 15 timers on my phone, for every 10 minutes so I don't forget. Anyway,
Okay, and Nicole, your Instagram link people are asking for in the chat.
yes,
So
it's Executive Athlete Podcast. So I have a podcast called The Executive Athlete. I also have a podcast called Aeon at the Top, where I interview C-suite and board members on their paths to get there. So, and those are on YouTube, Apple, Spotify. The one pager will have all that stuff. My Instagram, my social is just, I do my first filming session tomorrow. And so Instagram and TikTok are going to blow up over the next few weeks. So look out. You might not find a ton there, but it's launching. So yeah,
good.
yeah,
And you
very
wrote a
exciting.
book. And I forgot
Yes,
to
that'll
tell
come out
people
next year.
you wrote a book.
I
And
did. Next year,
it's
coming out.
yes, I think that's so exciting. Thank you so much. You
Thank
are
you. Thanks for
just
having me.
a gem. And
Reach out to me with any questions. Always happy to help. Not an MD, but always happy to give you suggestions
yes,
based on my experience.
and again, she's a wealth of information. So our next call
Call
is in
is in
2 weeks,
2 weeks.
but so we're excited to see you back. Thank you, Nicole, from the bottom of my heart. I so appreciate
Everyone.
you, and excited to share your hacks with everyone else. And thank you all for joining us. Be safe, have a wonderful weekend, and follow Nicole and wish her well. She's gonna nail it with this book. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. See you in a couple of weeks. Bye, everyone.